Eric Hunter spurred his loyal stallion Shadow through the mist-shrouded valleys of the Carpathian Mountains, a forsaken wilderness where ancient folklore spoke of restless spirits and long-buried secrets. The landscape was a treacherous maze of razor-sharp cliffs, twisted thorns, and dense forests of gnarled pines that clawed at the sky like skeletal fingers. The air hung heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay, and every gust of wind carried faint, eerie whispers that seemed to echo warnings from the graves of forgotten travelers. A deep-seated unease gnawed at Eric's core, not merely from the biting chill that seeped through his cloak, but from an intangible dread, as if the mountains themselves were alive, observing his every step with malevolent intent. He had been riding without respite for 3 arduous days and 4 interminable nights, departing from the opulent halls of his homeland when intrigue and opportunity intertwined like vines. His mission was urgent: to deliver a sealed parchment from the wise King Harlan to his valiant son, Prince Lionel, who was entrenched in a brutal siege against a shadowy coven of warlocks in a remote, war-torn kingdom. Eric, with his sharp wit forged in the fires of countless deceptions, and his knack for turning peril into profit, pressed onward. Yet, the barren path offered no glimpses of treasure or easy gains, leaving him restless and brooding. As the sun began its descent, casting long, blood-orange shadows across the peaks, Eric couldn't shake the sensation that an unseen force was guiding him, or perhaps luring him, toward an inevitable confrontation. Shadow, his steadfast companion, snorted in fatigue, its powerful muscles quivering under the strain of the relentless journey. The horse's hooves crunched over loose gravel, each step echoing like a distant drumbeat in the oppressive silence. With twilight encroaching, Eric scanned the horizon desperately for refuge. The encroaching darkness promised not just wolves prowling the underbrush, but perhaps something far more sinister. Legends of these mountains spoke of shapeshifters and enchantresses who preyed on the unwary. Finally, in a hidden glen, nestled between 2 looming ridges, he spotted a glimmer of hope, a pristine spring bubbling forth from cracked stone, its waters sparkling unnaturally under the fading light. Flanking it stood 2 massive oaks, their branches heavy with ripe autumn fruits, apples and pears that dangled like tempting jewels, their skins mottled with hues of red and gold. Nearby gaped the mouth of a cavern, its entrance a dark maw that seemed to swallow the light, exuding an aura of ancient mystery. It appeared a perfect sanctuary, yet as Eric dismounted, a subtle disquiet stirred within him. The air felt thicker here, charged with an electric tension, and the spring's water tasted oddly metallic, as if infused with minerals from realms below the earth. Leading Shadow to the lush, dew-kissed grass surrounding the spring, Eric allowed the horse to graze while he knelt to drink. The water was icy, sending a jolt through his veins, but it quenched his parched throat. He tethered Shadow loosely, knowing the beast was well-trained and unlikely to wander far. Venturing into the cavern, torch in hand, Eric's flame revealed a spacious chamber with high, vaulted ceilings. Faint runes etched into the walls caught the light, pulsing with a subtle glow that made his skin crawl. Were they wards of protection? Or remnants of some forgotten curse? Shaking off the thought, he unrolled a thick woolen blanket from his enchanted satchel, a family heirloom woven with threads of illusion that allowed it to conceal vast treasures within its modest folds. He then climbed one of the oaks, his agile fingers plucking the fruits with practiced ease, filling his arms with their bounty. The climb afforded him a brief vantage point, and as he gazed out over the misty valleys, a fleeting shadow crossed the distant peaks, perhaps a bird, or something more ominous. Descending, he returned to the cavern, savoring the crisp sweetness of the fruits over his meager dry rations. His mind wandered to the missive in his satchel, its wax seal unbroken, and the weight of the king's trust upon him. Exhaustion soon overtook him, and he lay down, his snores rumbling through the stone like a low growl, oblivious to the gathering shadows. But in the depths of night, when the moon hung full and luminous overhead, a subtle disturbance pierced his slumber. A cold, insistent tug at his boot, as if invisible fingers were probing his defenses. Eric stirred groggily, his eyes fluttering open to the pale moonlight filtering through the cavern's entrance, casting elongated shadows that danced like phantoms on the walls. He scanned the dim space, heart quickening, but saw nothing amiss. Just the wind, he muttered to himself, rolling over and pulling the blanket tighter. Yet sleep evaded him now, his senses heightened by the isolation. Moments later, the tug returned, sharper this time, yanking with deliberate force. Bolting upright, Eric's blood turned to ice. A skeletal hand, its bones glowing with an otherworldly phosphorescence, clamped around his ankle like a vice, unyielding and cold as death. Hovering nearby were two skulls, one large and adorned with remnants of a cracked jaw, and a smaller one, childlike in size, alongside a full skeletal figure, its hollow sockets flickering with ethereal blue light. Panic surged through him. He kicked wildly, but the grip only tightened, sending a numbing chill up his leg. "Release me, foul spirits," he bellowed, his voice echoing off the walls as he fumbled for his dagger, the blade glinting in the moonlight. The air thickened, shimmering like heat over coals, and from the cavern's far end, where shadows pooled deepest, three figures emerged, stepping forth as if materializing from the stone itself. A middle-aged man with a weathered face and tattered merchant's robes, a woman of elegant bearing clutching a wide-eyed boy protectively to her side. Their skin was pallid, as if drained of life, and their eyes held a haunted depth that spoke of untold suffering. The skeletal hand released its hold, withdrawing into nothingness, but the tension in the air remained palpable, like the calm before a storm. "Who? What manner of illusion is this?" Eric demanded, rising to his feet, dagger poised, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Suspicion warred with curiosity in his mind. Was this a trap or a desperate plea? The man stepped forward, his voice steady but laced with exhaustion. "We mean you no harm, stranger. I am Alfred, a merchant from the prosperous lands of Eldoria. This is my wife, Elena, and our son, Thomas. We are no illusions, but victims of a cruel fate. Sit and hear our story, for it entwines with yours now, whether you will it or not." Reluctantly, Eric lowered his blade, though his eyes darted to the exits, calculating escape routes. They gathered around the flickering torch, the family huddling close, as Alfred began his tale, his words painting a vivid picture of horror and resilience. "We set out with a grand caravan, traversing these very mountains en route to the glittering markets of Byzantium. Our wagons groaned under the weight of silks from the east, spices that could tantalize the gods, and chests brimming with gold coins, jewels, and ancient artifacts, treasures that could buy kingdoms or ransom souls. But as twilight descended one fateful evening, she appeared. The foolish sorceress, a hulking abomination of a woman, her form twisted by dark arts, her eyes burning with an insatiable hunger for living flesh. She descended upon us like a tempest, her spells crackling through the air, igniting chaos. Our guards, brave men armed with steel and resolve, were the first to fall, twisted into smoldering husks by her infernal blasts, their screams echoing into the night. We fled in terror, abandoning our wagons to seek refuge in this glen, but she pursued us relentlessly, her laughter a thunderous roar that shook the earth. Cornered by the spring, we braced for the end, her claws extended, ready to rend us apart. But fate, or perhaps some higher power, intervened. An ancient sage materialized from the mists, astride a spectral steed, his robes woven with threads that shimmered like captured stars. With a wave of his gnarled staff, he chanted incantations in a tongue older than the mountains, weaving an invisible barrier around us, a pulsating aegis of light that repelled her every assault. "This ward is but a temporary shield," he intoned, his voice like the rustle of ancient scrolls. "It will hold her at bay from direct harm, but her wrath knows no limits." Infuriated, the sorceress turned her fury upon our abandoned caravan. Flames erupted from her fingertips, engulfing the wagons in a hellish inferno. Our silks turned to ash, our spices scattered to the winds, and our treasures melted into worthless slag. The night sky blazed with the pyre of our dreams, and we watched, helpless, as our life's work vanished in smoke. Yet the sage did not abandon us entirely. Sensing our despair, he imbued us with fragments of his arcane knowledge, a power to shift between our mortal forms and spectral guises, to move unseen through shadows, and to bind solemn oaths with unbreakable magic. "I cannot confront her directly," he confessed, his eyes clouded with ancient regret. "Her sorcery is primal, chaotic, born of raw power, but marred by profound foolishness, a mind as stormy as it is dim. But endure within this ward, and in the days to come, a master of cunning named Eric Hunter will pass this way. His guile, sharper than any blade, can dismantle her defenses where brute force fails. He instructed us in the right to compel your aid, an oath sealed by touch and word, then faded into the ether, leaving us in this liminal existence, haunting the glen like ghosts, awaiting your arrival. We have lingered here, trapped between life and oblivion, our days blurring into an endless vigil, haunted by the echoes of that night and the uncertainty of what lies beyond our salvation." Edit. Eric absorbed the tale, his mind a whirlwind of questions. Who was this sage, and what hidden motives drove his prophecy? Could the sorceress's foolishness be a deception, masking a deeper, more insidious threat that might ensnare him as well? And if he succeeded, what unseen consequences might ripple forth? "You've ensnared me with your spectral tricks and binding oaths," he said, his tone laced with wary pragmatism. "But I'm no altruistic knight. I thrive on rewards." "Not riddles. What do you offer for this peril?" Alfred's gaze held a spark of desperate hope. "Vanquish her, and the gratitude of Eldoria will be yours. My estates hold vaults overflowing with gold from distant trades, enough to forge your own legacy, to live as a lord among kings. As proof of our sincerity, I've concealed a chest nearby, salvaged from the caravan's ruins before the flames consumed all. Gems of unparalleled brilliance, rubies like. We have lingered here, trapped between life and oblivion, our days blurring into an endless vigil, haunted by the echoes of that night and the uncertainty of what lies beyond our salvation. Gems of unparalleled brilliance, rubies like drops of blood, emeralds verdant as these cursed woods. Claim it as an advance, but know the full bounty awaits our liberation." Intrigued, despite the risks, Eric followed Alfred's precise directions to a hidden crevice near the spring. Digging through the soft earth with his hands, he unearthed an weathered oak chest, its locks rusted but intact. Opening it revealed a cascade of jewels that caught the moonlight, scattering prisms of color across the glen. He transferred them swiftly to his satchel, feeling the weight of potential fortune, yet a nagging doubt persisted. Were these gems cursed, or merely bait? Returning, he pressed for more. Explain this foolishness, and where does this beast lair? I need every detail if I'm to risk my neck. The sage deemed her foolish for her impulsive nature. Her magic is vast, but her intellect is a sieve, easily outmaneuvered by clever ploys, Alfred replied. She resides in the Black Crag, 7 leagues due north, a foreboding peak that pierces the clouds like a dagger. She emerges only at midday preceding the full moon to hunt her prey, her senses heightened by lunar pull. Tonight, the moon waxes full. She'll venture forth soon. But tread carefully. Her power, though erratic, could unravel even the wiliest soul if underestimated. With dawn breaking, Eric found Shadow mysteriously returned to the spring, grazing as if nothing had amiss. Mounting up, he rode north, the path snaking through fog-enshrouded gorges, where every rustle in the underbrush set his nerves on edge. Twisted branches overhead formed grotesque arches, and distant howls echoed, fueling his imagination with visions of ambushes. As the Black Crag loomed, a monolithic shadow etched against the sky, Eric's thoughts darkened. Was the sage a benevolent guide, or a puppet master, weaving him into a grander, more perilous tapestry? What if defeating the sorceress awakened something ancient and vengeful from the depths? At the crag's base, he dismounted, allowing Shadow to roam. From his satchel, he drew a vial of transformative elixir, smearing it across his face. His features contorted into a nightmarish visage, pale skin stretched taut over exaggerated bones, eyes glowing with infernal light. No sooner had the change taken hold than she appeared, the foolish sorceress, descending the crag like an avalanche of flesh and fury. Colossal and grotesque, her body bloated with unnatural girth, her hair a wild tangle of thorns, and her teeth, jagged daggers that gleamed with saliva, bared in a predatory grin, her eyes black voids of hunger, locked onto him. "Ha! Fresh quarry delivers itself to my doorstep," she bellowed, her voice a guttural rumble that shook loose stones from the cliffs. She charged, the ground trembling under her thunderous steps, arms outstretched like claws ready to eviscerate. Eric, heart pounding, mirrored her aggression, his transformed voice a demonic rasp. "Ha! A plump wench ripe for the feasting. I am Eric, devourer of women, and you shall sate my monthly crave, unless you prove yourself more than mere meat." She halted abruptly, confusion flickering across her brutish features, her massive frame heaving. "What manner of fool are you? I am the sorceress. I'll rend you with spells that tryst souls." She hurled incantations, bolts of dark energy crackling toward him. But Eric had anticipated this, swallowing a protective ward from his satchel earlier, a bitter pellet that nullified her magic, leaving him unscathed. Spell after spell fizzled harmlessly, her frustration mounting into a frenzy. "Why do you resist? My power should consume you. Your feeble tricks fail, because I am a spirit of gluttony, immune to mortal sorcery," Eric taunted, circling her slowly, building the tension as sweat beaded on her brow. "Prove you're a true sorceress, reveal where your life essence hides, or I'll devour you whole." In her folly, she blurted it out. In a black raven, caged within yonder cave, guarded by a venomous serpent, now begone, or face my wrath. Eric's mind raced. Her admission was the key, but extracting it had been too easy. Was there a trap within? She led him to the cave, oblivious to his secret consultation of an enchanted tablet from his satchel, which revealed the ritual: wrestle the serpent, force its tail to tongue to expel a black pearl, hurl the pearl inside to summon a 6-armed dwarf with a single eye, blind it with a sacred arrow to incinerate it, then pelt the raven with 6 precise pebbles to bring it down. The confrontation unfolded in heart-stopping sequence. The serpent struck like lightning, its fangs dripping venom. Eric dodged, grappling its thrashing body, the cave walls echoing with his grunts and its hisses. Forcing tail to tongue triggered an explosion, the pearl ejecting amid sparks. Tossing it summoned the dwarf, a grotesque, multi-limbed horror, wielding blades that whirled like death's sides. Eric's arrow, drawn from a blessed bow, pierced its solitary eye, igniting it in flames that scorched the air. Entering the cave, he gathered pebbles, his hands steady despite the raven's frantic flight. Each throw from his sacred sling struck true, the bird plummeting, lifeless. Revealing his true form, Eric twisted its neck. The sorceress shrieked, her body erupting in flames, convulsing as she crumbled to ash. Her final wail echoing through the crag like a dying curse. Victory surged through him, but a chill remained. What if her death was but the opening of a darker chapter? Emerging, Eric found Alfred, Elena, and Thomas restored to full vitality, their faces alight with gratitude. They embraced him fiercely. "You've freed us from the abyss," Alfred declared. "Come to Eldoria. My vaults await with riches untold. Gold to fund empires, artifacts of power." Yet Eric, with his mission pressing, accepted directions and, upon encountering a light caravan en route, received an upfront bounty, ingots of pure gold and relics humming with latent magic. Mounting shadow, he rode onward, treasures secure, but his mind shadowed by unresolved enigmas. The sage's prophecy lingered like a specter. What greater threats did it foreshadow? As the mountains receded, the wind whispered anew, hinting at threads of fate yet to unravel, pulling him toward an uncertain horizon where cunning alone might not suffice.